I remember when I went downstairs, I ended up walking up to my babysitter and I saw she had her finger up her nose and then she ended up scratching her peach with it. Like, ew. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to a super embarrassing story. So this story takes place back in my grade 5 year. So I was in elementary school and I was just a basic kid, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not know any better than the average child. The only thing I cared about back when I was in grade 5 was tech decks, video games, and also probably Pokemon. I love Pokemon and to this day I still do. But one thing I will say is that one thing I hated was that I was a major introvert, meaning that I would never be able to really go out and talk to people. Hell, I was even nervous to go and buy a pizza one time. Like, I could not talk to anybody and I always felt like I was really awkward. Obviously, throughout middle school, I started learning how to not be, but especially in grade 5, honestly, I was just not good with interacting or basically confront someone in any way. But I remember one time I was walking home from my elementary school after my classes were done and I basically started heading home. When I finally got home, I saw my parents were looking at me, and one of my parents ended up walking up to me, which was my mother, and said, "Oh, Baba, so we're gonna be leaving for a couple days. We're gonna give you a babysitter, so do not worry, everything will be okay." "Where are you guys going?" "Oh, we're going to quickly go visit your auntie in the States, so you do your thing here. Don't worry, the babysitter will be here any minute, but we have to go now, okay? I left some grilled cheese sandwich for you at the kitchen." Okay, is what I said, and right away my parents ended up leaving. Obviously at first I was really nervous about being home alone, but at the same time, like, it didn't seem that much of a difference since I wouldn't interact with my parents anyway, even if they were home. So I remember I ended up just going straight up to my room and started playing video games. Obviously in grade 5 you don't really get any crazy homework, so you know, I just ended up sitting on my Xbox playing video games the entire time and pretending that everything was okay, until out of nowhere I remember the doorbell rang and I ended up hearing someone at my door. Now once again, I was a major introvert, like to the point where I was scared of everything. I was even afraid of my own shadow. So when I heard the doorbell rang, I remember I was super nervous to go basically answer the door. Then I ended up going onto my balcony and looking down at my front door to see who it was. When I looked down, I saw that there was a girl in like a crop top. She was like a basic girl, and I remember I saw that there was already a stain on her shirt, and I'm not gonna lie to you, she looked disgusting. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember I basically ended up looking down and she looked up right away and saw me. She ended up saying, "Hi, you must be Bubba. Can you come get the door?" I mean, I can. "Okay, well, can you?" I remember at that moment, I felt like it was a really awkward situation. So I remember I ended up basically going off my balcony, sprinting straight to the front door, and I let her in. When I let her in, I remember she looks over at me and she started smiling at me. And when I saw her smile, I am not joking, she had the most yellow teeth ever. Like, her teeth were more yellow than Big Bird. Like, it was ultimately disgusting. And I remember I kept looking at her thinking, how in the world did my parents find this babysitter? I remember she ends up coming in and she ends up basically, like, you know, introducing herself and basically telling me how we're gonna have a great time and just, you know, the basic rundown of how the night's gonna go. Obviously for me, I ended up just, you know, ignoring her somewhat. Obviously this wasn't my first babysitter ever, but I will say that, you know, I just ended up just pretending I knew what she was saying, shaking my head, and I went straight back upstairs. When I went back upstairs, I remember I ended up going straight to my Xbox and I started playing Xbox again. But 5 minutes later, she ended up coming up to my room, and out of nowhere, even on the stairwell, I ended up hearing like a little fart sound, and I was like, wait a second, what was that? And then I ended up seeing my babysitter walk into the room and say, "Oh, hey Bubba, so I was just wondering, I'm a little hungry. Are you hungry?" "No, my mom gave me food before I left." "Oh, okay, well, I'm hungry, so is there anything for me to eat in the kitchen?" I mean, you can just help yourself," is what I said. And I remember she went straight downstairs and basically started doing her own thing. To be honest, I don't know what she did because I was upstairs playing Xbox, but I remember 20 minutes went by and I ended up basically getting actually hungry. I don't know why in grade 5 I would eat a lot. To be honest, I was a bit overweight back when I was in grade 5. But anyways, afterwards, I ended up going downstairs, and when I started to head downstairs, I turned the corner and instantly I ended up seeing that this babysitter was leaning back on a chair in the dining room table with her feet kicked up onto the table with her toes out, and she was eating crackers and ketchup together. Now listen, crackers and cheese, that makes sense, you know, cheese and crackers, that's fine, but ketchup and crackers? Like, are you joking, bro? That's disgusting. I remember at that moment I looked at her and I basically looked at her really weird, and she looked at me saying, "Oh, you must be hungry. Here, do you want a cracker and ketchup?" I'm good, thanks," is what I told her. And I remember I basically ended up walking away and went to the living room to watch TV. I remember after a while, I actually started starving even more and more, to the point where I ended up basically texting my parents that I was starving and that this babysitter cannot cook for the life of her. My parents ended up texting me, "Oh, Bubba, well, we left some cash for you upstairs under daddy's pillow. Go upstairs and get some money." So I remember I ended up sprinting upstairs, went downstairs, and I remember I basically ended up walking up to my babysitter saying, "I was just wondering, is it cool if we order a pizza? I'm not paying for a pizza." "Oh, no, it's okay. My mom gave me money to pay for it. is it cool if we order the pizza? Yeah, sure, just order it. I was hoping you would order it if that's okay. The reason I said this was because I was really nervous back then. I was really scared to basically call literally anyone. Yes, I had a phone, but it was only to call my parents. And to be fair, those were the only 2 numbers that were ever saved on my phone until obviously middle school. That's when I started pulling girls. But you know, I was just extremely nervous. I remember this girl ends up grabbing her phone and she ends up calling the pizza place, orders us a pizza, except this pizza was the most disgusting pizza ever. She ended up getting sardines on the pizza and then pineapples. And on top of that, she ended up getting olives on top of it. At that moment, I slammed my head up against the wall and I just knew like I was not going to eat that night and I was just really upset. So what I decided to do is basically go into my kitchen cabinet and I ended up grabbing a loaf of bread and I ate that for the rest of the night. I remember 40 minutes went by and I ended up hearing the doorbell ring, and obviously it was the pizza guy and I knew it was because I could smell the pizza coming from my window. And this babysitter ends up grabbing the pizza from the front door and calling me downstairs to eat the pizza with her. Now me, obviously I wasn't hungry anymore since I ate a loaf of bread. So I ended up going downstairs and I just sat with her basically. And I remember when this babysitter ended up opening up the pizza box, I am not joking, she ended up basically scratching her peach and literally was picking her nose, and then she went for the pizza slice. Like, bro, I didn't want to be anywhere near that pizza after I witnessed that. I was so disgusted. And I looked at her saying, are you not gonna wash your hands? Baba, why would I wash my hands? I'm a girl. I'm just naturally clean. At that moment, I realized that this girl had no sense of hygiene or anything. And me, I was just so grossed out to the point where I just didn't want to be anywhere near her. But let's just say things went from gross to ultimately disgusting, because what happens next, I gotta say, really freaks me out. I remember it was super late at night and it was around 10:30 at night. Now me, usually my bedtime was at 10 o'clock back when I was in grade 5. So I remember I went upstairs, I went to my room and I basically started laying down getting ready for sleeping. But as I was laying down getting ready to sleep, I remember out of nowhere my babysitter ends up walking into my room. She walks into my room and looks at me and says, oh Baba, I was just wondering, do you want like some company? I remember I looked at her really confused and I said, no, why? Is everything okay? No, it's just I can't really sleep by myself. At that moment, I was really confused because I'm like, wait, does this girl want to do the devil's tango with me? Like, what in the world's happening? And then one thing led to another. She ended up getting under my blanket with me and laying down beside me and passing out. At that moment, I was super annoyed because not only did this girl stink of anchovies, but she was just super disgusting. And I just couldn't sleep and I just felt like really weird. And also, what kind of babysitter does this? I remember after a while, like 20 minutes went by and me, I was still wide awake. She was passed out dead and I'm just laying there thinking this could not get any worse. But guess what? It ended up getting way worse because out of nowhere, I ended up looking to the side and I saw she ended up moving her like peach a little bit and she ended up releasing the loudest fart sound ever in my bed under the blanket. At that moment, I remember when she moved the blanket a bit around after that crazy fart, I ended up basically getting a whole whiff of what was coming out of under my blanket. And I'm not joking, my eyes started to water. I was so grossed out and I remember I really just wanted to get out of there. So I ended up getting up and I actually ended up sleeping on my living room couch just because I could not breathe in my room anymore. I remember the next morning came by and I remember she ended up walking up to me on the couch and she asked me, Baba, why'd you pass out on the couch? Is everything okay? I looked at her and I just kind of rolled my eyes at her and I went upstairs to brush my teeth. But as for this babysitter, well, one thing I was right about, she did not brush her teeth. And I remember she ended up basically sitting on my couch and basically was ultimately disgusting. I will say though, when my parents finally got home, things were a lot better because obviously she ended up leaving. I told my parents, never ever get that disgusting babysitter again. They looked at me confused, but I knew what I was talking about. Honestly, if you guys don't want a babysitter like this and just fall for more embarrassing stories, peace out, guys. Okay, so I've talked about a ton of babysitters on this channel, but the one babysitter that I did not talk about probably caused the most chaos. And on top of that, she was really, really sus. So today's story is going to be a really wild one. And honestly, if you guys haven't pressed that like button and subscribe, I highly advise you guys do it because it makes the channel grow and makes me realize how much I love you guys. Seriously, just click the subscribe button. You're dumb if you don't. But other than that, let's just jump into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another insane video. So today's video all starts back when I was just a teenager. And what age? Well, I was 15. Now you guys are probably wondering, wait, you're 15 years old and you had a babysitter? Yes. And the reason for that is because I was a pretty naughty kid growing up. Like I would always go out and do the devil's tango. And well, let's just say that ended up getting me in trouble with my parents a lot of the time. So obviously I remember one time my parents came up to me and they told me that they were going on vacation. My parents would always, you know, go out and have a good time and stuff. And we'll always went on vacation. Why? Well, because my family just loves each other so much to the point where they want to keep showing their love in other places. Kind of a weird flex, I know, but mom, dad, I love you and you love me. And you guys hopefully still do love me after this happened. Anyways, I remember when I was 15, I was basically kind of just hanging out, doing my own thing. You know, I would play video games, I would go out and meet women. But once again, my parents came up to me and said, "We're going on a little vacation. Don't worry where we're going. We left you with a babysitter. Is that okay?" And me, obviously, I was like, bruh, I'm 15. I don't need a babysitter. When I told my parents that, they obviously did not care. They're like, "No, you need to learn how to be responsible." I am responsible. "No, you're not. You keep hanging out with these women that make you cause very bad problems with yourself. Doing all these women will never do any good for you." Little do they know, I make money off literally telling these stories, so yay. I don't even know what to say there, but anyways, going on with the story. I remember from there, I was basically just trying to be like, you know, persistent on showing them that I was responsible enough. But obviously, when the day came that they had to leave, they ended up telling me that the babysitter was coming at 5:30, and I was upset. Obviously, I didn't know who the babysitter was, but I just went up to my room and decided not to say anything. I didn't care. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stay up here and just relax. Now, this is the part of the story where things get a little interesting. Anyways, I remember the doorbell rang, and I went downstairs, and I ended up opening the front door. When I opened it, there was a girl that was there, and she was wearing, well, something that an average babysitter wouldn't. The reason I say this is because most babysitters would wear clothes that make them comfortable and they can, you know, lounge around as the kid is doing whatever the hell they want to do. But this babysitter was wearing a full-on dress. She was wearing like this really black, sleek dress, and I was like, are you at the wrong house? "Oh, I'm the babysitter. I'm just here to take care of you." "What are you up to?" "I'm just upstairs playing video games." "Okay, are you the one that I'm taking care of? I was told there's only one kid." No, you're watching over me. My parents just don't trust me. It's a long story, but yeah, just come in. The living room's just there. You can just chill." She ends up walking in with her high heels on and ends up basically going to my living room and sitting down. Now, the whole time in my mind, I was thinking, why is this babysitter wearing a dress? This makes no sense. Is she trying to subdue me of all things? It wouldn't be the first time if you guys are the people that watch the channel regularly. I remember I ended up basically, like, you know, going in the kitchen, kind of like staring at her, wondering why she was wearing a dress. And to be honest, she was really attractive. And I remember as I kept staring at her, the babysitter obviously realized that I was watching her more than she was getting paid to watch me. So at this point, she ended up standing up and walking over to me saying, "Bubba, right?" "Yeah, what's up?" "I'm just curious, is everything okay? You seem a little off. Honestly, like, are you sick?" "Am I sick?" No, I'm not sick. Why?" Honestly, I think you're getting a temperature. Here, let me feel." She ends up putting her hand on my forehead and says, "Honestly, yeah, I don't think you're feeling well." "I'm pretty sure I'm fine." "No, I gotta take you upstairs." She ends up grabbing me by the wrist and dragging me upstairs saying, "You gotta follow me." And when we went upstairs to my room, she instantly ends up putting me in bed and makes me basically go to sleep. By the way, it was only like 7:30, so obviously I wasn't gonna go to bed. I'm a 15-year-old that likes to go out party and do the devil's tango. So obviously at that point, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna lay down. Maybe I deserve a nap. You know what I mean? So I end up laying down, and I'm just laying down thinking this babysitter's up to something. It's kind of weird how, you know, she just wants me to go to bed so quick. But then after a while, I remember I ended up just getting up and just sitting down and playing my Xbox with my headset on. And with my headset, I ended up hearing weird noises. Not coming from the video game that I was playing, because obviously Call of Duty has like the same sounds over and over of bombs, you know, guns and shooting. This was a different sound. And this sound I actually recognized because it was my front door opening. When my front door opened, I was super weirded out and I was like, wait, is someone here? Is it my parents? So instantly, I ended up basically getting out of my room and running straight to the front door. And when I went to the front door, I saw my babysitter already opened it for a guy. Now me, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's the pizza guy because he was holding a pizza. But no, he wasn't the pizza guy. He was my babysitter's boyfriend. What, you guys thought I was gonna get the devil's tango this video? No, she was, but with a different man. And obviously, the only person allowed to do the devil's tango in this house was me and my parents, obviously, but you know what I mean. Going on though, I remember I was freaking out. I'm like, what are you doing here? And this guy ends up walking up to me saying, oh, it's okay, little man, don't worry. I'm just here to watch over your babysitter. Wait, so he's watching over my babysitter and the babysitter's watching over me? What is this? What? I remember I ended up panicking and I was so confused, and honestly, it got to the point where I ran upstairs and I decided to go tell my mom. But obviously, as I was walking up the stairs, the babysitter saw that I pulled out my phone and she said, no, wait, don't tell your parents. Please don't tell your parents. Your parents don't know about this. Well, they're gonna find out. What do you mean? No, they're not. We're not gonna do anything. I promise. Just be cool for once. Be cool. Now, when someone challenges my coolness, obviously, I decided to play cool. So what I ended up saying to her was, okay, well, like, just don't do anything weird, okay? Like, he can stay, but just don't be weird. They ended up both agreeing, and I went back up to my room and I ended up putting on my headset and playing video games. Niggas probably thought that was it, right? They ended up just, you know, hanging out and stuff. No, they were doing a little bit more than just hanging out, because I remember as I was playing my video games, like half an hour later, I ended up hearing the TV be on super loud. And I'm talking loud as if like we were in a movie theater loud. And at that point, I knew what that meant. I was 15. I'm not a dumb kid. Like nowadays, I'm not gonna lie to you, kids are smarter than the average person. Like we know when something sus is going on. Hell, that's probably why you're clicking on this video, because you guys understand the sus. So I remember basically I ended up getting off my headset. I ended up going downstairs and I'm like sneaking into, you know, my living room, seeing what's going on. And right at that moment, right as I turn the corner going into my living room, I see this girl getting absolutely ranched into her. And I'm like, what? And then instantly the guy looks at me saying, oh, and he ends up like doing the devil's cream right in front of me. That was the first time I saw another man's eggplant that wasn't my own. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was disgusted. I got so disgusted to the point where I ended up telling him to leave. I ended up basically taking a photo and saying, if he doesn't leave right now, I'm sending this to my parents. And instantly from there, he got up and ended up leaving. So you guys thought that was it, right? He left, problem solved. No, this is where the story gets, well, I guess more in my direction, I should say. Because from there, I remember he was like really upset, and the girl that was babysitting me was just stressing out. She didn't want to get ratted out. She didn't want me to be a snitch. And obviously I wasn't going to be a snitch. So what I decided to do was tell her, I'm not going to tell my parents this, but like, you got to do something for me. She ends up saying like, oh, like I can make you food. I can give you money. I ended up looking at her saying, do you really think I need that? And that's when she decided to go on her knees. And you know, I would say the rest, but obviously it's too sus and YouTube may demonetize this video, but I think you guys get where I was going with this. I ended up basically putting back my mark on the house, where I was the only one that could do the devil's tango. And that's exactly what happened. It wasn't blackmail, I'm gonna say, because either way I was never gonna show my parents, and obviously I deleted the photo right after I took it. I'm gonna be for real with you guys, but she didn't know that at the time, so it is what it is. Anyways, one thing led to another. She ended up basically, you know, telling me that, you know, my eggplant was bigger than her boyfriend's, and you know, it's just a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be said. And all I'm gonna say is that this guy ended up having the most sussest babysitter become his sus babysitter, or I was the babysitter technically in that moment, but you know what, it's whatever. Anyways guys, that is basically it for today's amazing story. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel, but just wait, before we actually end the video, join the Discord server. I have a Discord server that I want all of you guys to hang out in and tell me your crazy stories that I could maybe tell on this channel. So click in the description down below for it, and like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out guys. Okay, so I know that I've already done a story called Me and the Babysitter, and you guys absolutely crushed it. Like, you guys are loving that story like crazy. And knowing you guys do honestly love that story so much, I think it's time for me to tell you guys the other time when I had a babysitter. And I know you guys are probably gonna be like, oh no way, is this gonna repeat what happened last time? Trust me guys, this story does get intense and is insane, like all the videos on my channel. But still, this story is gonna be insane, and like I always say before I tell the story, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Seriously, this channel is full of amazing things, and also follow me on Instagram. If you guys don't, you guys are weird champ Andes, literally. Anyways, like I always say, let's get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to Me and My Babysitter, or Me and My Hot Babysitter. I never really described my last babysitter, and you guys still love that video for some reason, so here's me with an actual attractive babysitter. But the way this happened, knowing my last experience of Me and My Babysitter, it kind of changed things up, and I have to basically explain it. So I remember back when I was a kid, my parents had a babysitter before. You guys can watch the first part of Me and My Babysitter. That was that babysitter. This next babysitter was, I want to say like 4 months later, and my parents were gonna go on a trip. And they needed someone that would come to the house regularly to basically check in on me. So I remember my parents would go and ask my neighbors to help out, but that didn't end up working out. So I remember my parents looked online for a babysitter, but they didn't want to find someone young and attractive because, well, we all know what happened last time. So my parents ended up finding this old lady that was like in her 30s that basically had children and was an old woman, basically come over and babysit me. Obviously at first I didn't really care because, well, as long as they weren't gonna annoy me in my day-to-day life of me playing video games and beating my meat left and right, everything's okay. But then I remember the day when my parents were leaving and stuff, they all like kind of like got together and they started like talking and giving me the ground rules to make sure, you know, I take care of the house and everything, basically giving me the manly talk. I don't know, I felt like I was gonna be like the kid from Home Alone. Anyways, I remember the the babysitter ends up coming in, and it was the old lady. It was just a simple old lady, not attractive, nothing. Like, I wouldn't go 10 feet near her. And if she offered me a sandwich, I'd probably throw it out the window. But I remember, basically, she came in, she basically grabbed my cheeks and squeezed them as hard as she could. And she's like, we're gonna have so much fun. Great, is what I said. I don't know. I wasn't happy. And I remember my parents, they kissed me on the cheek. They said goodbye, and they left for their cruise or whatever vacation they had. And well, me, I was just at home. I remember the babysitter would come, she would go, and this was like happening for like the first like 3 days of her coming over and just checking in on me, feeding me, doing all the babysitting stuff she should, and then leaving. But then I remember on the 4th day, it wasn't just the babysitter. The babysitter walks in, and then I realized that there was a really hot chick right behind her. And like, this wasn't a chick that like I didn't want to not be near. Like, she was hot as hell. So I remember I walked downstairs and I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? She looks at me, she's like, oh, like, you're out of your room. Welcome, come, let me feed you. And I remember her, like, I guess granddaughter, I'm not sure, I don't know if it was her daughter or granddaughter, basically looks at me and says, oh, like, hi, like, how are you? She like shakes my hand all nervous, but she was hot as hell. So I remember I was basically talking to her. I'm like, yeah, you know, I live here. I sleep on that bed. That's where we do our laundry. Yeah, you already know. I was basically giving her a house tour, and it was so funny because I remember my babysitter, like the actual babysitter, the old lady, was kind of like catching on that I liked this girl, and I was getting out of my room because of it. Because, you know, the only thing that could get me out of my room back in the day was food and, well, girls, I guess. So I remember she's all like happy and stuff, and she's like, oh, like, come sit down with us. I'll feed both of you. And basically, you know, we started just chilling and doing that. I started to get to know more about the girl. I started to talk to the girl. I ended up getting her Snapchat, and yeah, one thing led to another. I instantly just kind of, I don't know, I was happy. I was like, damn, like, this is a W babysitter. She's got a hot granddaughter. Anyways, they got up, they ended up leaving, and I was like, you know, basically snapping her left and right, saying like, hey, like, what's going on? How are you? What's up? You know, basically just hitting her up. And me knowing I was a kid, I probably hit her up in the most awkward way possible. Like, I think I probably sent her like 3 dinosaur pictures and a picture of my Turtle Beach headset. I don't know, I was super awkward. But going on with the story though, basically she like started talking to me and stuff and being nice to me. And I remember the next day when the babysitter came over again, she didn't bring her daughter. Her daughter wasn't there. Our granddaughter, I should say. Sorry, I keep saying daughter. I'm still not sure which one she was, but going on. She wasn't there. The hot girl that I liked wasn't there. And I was upset about it. I was like, what? Like, where is she? Where's your hot granddaughter? She looks at me and she's like, oh, like, she's coming later on today. She's very busy right now, but she's gonna come in later and I'm gonna go home early. Oh, okay, bet. That sounds good. Okay, yeah, you leave and she come here. W. Yes, I agree with this method, is what I told her. An hour goes by, she feeds me, she does all her babysitting duties and leaves, and then boom, the next person to come into the door was her granddaughter. And it was a W, because I remember she came inside. I basically walked her around the place, and, you know, I sat with her on the couch and we started talking about school and stuff like that, because she wasn't that much older than me. I think she was like only like 3 years older than me. So like, she was in high school and I was still like, I think middle schoolish. And basically she was flirting with me and stuff. I'm not gonna lie, she was. I know she was. She wanted me, and like, basically I was flirting with her. I don't know, I was a kid. I think I was just kind of like mesmerized by how attractive she was, so I was kind of just playing that part of she wants me, and I guess she found it cute to the point where I remember it was the funniest thing where she was like, oh, like, do you want to like show me your amazing room? I told her, damn, hell yeah, I want to show you my bedroom. I take her upstairs to my bedroom, and when I did, I remember she saw my Xbox, she saw my gaming setup, which was just a monitor and an Xbox, but still, she saw my whole entire room. And then I showed her my bed. When I showed her my bed, I pointed at it. I'm like, oh, like, come sit down on my bed. She came, she sat down on my bed, and I remember me, I was super nervous because that was like one of the good times when I actually wanted a chick to come into my room. And I kind of like put my arm around her and I grabbed my Xbox controller. And I instantly started playing Xbox with her. Realized that she played video games and she actually enjoyed video games. So me and her were playing video games, and then I realized that midway through playing video games, she put her hand on my thigh. And when she put her hand on my thigh, she was getting closer and closer to me, and I was like, you don't want to play video games anymore? She looked at me, she's like, I mean, I don't see a point of playing video games when we could be doing, I don't know, something else. I started smiling and I instantly knew what she was talking about. I remember I saw this on the internet, well, on the Devil's Hub, but that's not the point. I was like, hell yeah, okay, I see you, girl. And the thing that ended up happening was, well, you guys will have to wait till the next video. I'm sorry to do this to you guys, but if you guys do want the next part, make sure you guys do leave a like, subscribe, and well, follow me on Instagram. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do. And, you know, it makes me realize that you guys do want more of these amazing stories. But trust me, this story does get really good and really hot hot or sweaty, I should say. But yeah, like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. All right, peace out, guys.
My name is Baba. I'm still on top of the world. Devils take away your mother. Of course, let's go. Should I make it a story? Let's click record. Got that TikTok with 2 mil hit different with some more. She said she love me, she kept. Should I exit for sure? I got 100K for my life's work, so mama said bravo. All these people on my street, love y'all till the day I go. I got 100K in my plane. I got 100 buddies on my name. I'm making racks off this game. You better